Too long didn't read. New Gundam game, 2027, PS5, Xbox Series XS, and Steam. Gundam Rogue Orbit. This one seems to be a new, or maybe lesser explored direction within the Gundam intellectual property. The main enemy seems to be aliens, or robot kaiju creatures. This is likely going to be the main point of contention for longtime Gundam fans who want human versus human political drama. Me, on the other hand, I'm pretty okay with this, I think. Alternative universes exist to be explored creatively, so my biggest concern is going to be, if the game is actually good or not. And judging from the trailer, this looks like it's gonna be good. First impression seems to be that this is a fast-paced action sort of game. This looks very in the same vein as Armored Core 6, which is totally awesome. The store page shows the new Gundam you'll pilot is named Helix as you join a crew of soldiers against this new mysterious monster. It also makes mention of RPG elements and a cinematic story. I will also note that despite the trend of roguelike games putting Rogue into the title of their games, as far as I've seen there's no mention of Rogue Orbit containing roguelike or procedural generated elements at this point, currently. I could be wrong. Probably also worth mentioning, so far the store page only lists the game as having single player. From an audio standpoint, it also seems the music was done by a certain Nick Gordon. Not only does the trailer sound feel like his work, but he's also tweeted out a trailer for this one specifically. If you aren't aware, this is the man who made the multi-award-winning Doom reboot soundtracks. His style is something very fitting with sci-fi action shooters, as it always reminds me of Nine Inch Nails if Nine Inch Nails was a metalcore act, which is sort of fitting for the gritty shooters anyways, since the main man behind Nine Inch Nails, Trent Reznor, was the music maker for the original Quake. Okay, side tangent over. What exactly is this Summer Games thing anyways? I've been trying to keep up with all the Summer Games Fest announcements things this year in case I needed to make a video like this. Granted, I couldn't manage to sit into every single broadcast while it was live. I have tried to skip through the ones that I missed, so if there is a game I didn't catch in this list, I apologize. Please let us know down in the comments. This isn't just the Summerfest Games Showcase, also, which that's the big one, but, this potentially also includes games announced at the Mix Summer Game Showcase, Black Voices in Gaming, Sony State of Play, Latin American Game Showcase, Women-led Games, Day of the Dev, Southeast Asian Games, Wholesome Direct, Story-Rich Green Games, Pride Parade, Frosty Games Fest, Xbox Games, PC Gamer Gaming Show, Douche Indie, India Games, IGN Indie Loop Showcase, and the Nintendo Direct, and probably even more announcement things that I don't even remember the name of. If you'd like to keep up with me as I dedicate this YouTube channel to all video games in the mech genre space, feel free to hit the subscription button below. Thanks. Another big one shown here is Gen Atlas, formerly teased at the Game Awards show under the working title Project Robot. This one's coming to the Epic Game Store and is by Gen Design, which is the current studio of Fumito Ueda. This is the man behind some behemoth cult classic games like Ico, Shadow of the Colossus, and The Last Guardian. These are all games that nail down the feeling of being the little guy, surmounting giant odds. And in the case of Gen Atlas, this seems to be big humanoid mechanicals of some sort. The trailer shows some of the combat against them, Shadow of Colossus style, as you mount the giant beasts, tearing at them slowly and perhaps even controlling them at some point. This seems to be an interesting setting, which probably has a deeply emotional story to tell, and unfortunately I'm probably not going to end up playing it if it remains an Epic Game Store exclusive. I did hop into the playtest for Sand, as it's about to release and it does seem pretty buggy. Hopefully I just got unlucky and these are minor growing pains, as this one seems to have a very interesting game world. A sort of early 20th century explorer vibe mixed with retro-futurism science fiction. You start in a steampunk space station and get dropped as a team controlling a colossal walking diesel machine across a desert planet. The classic ring of play slowly shrinks as your team unearths goodies with hope to survive against other teams until you're able to seek out extraction. Kind of plays like Sea of Thieves or Guns of Icarus, as it's helpful to have a full team to help you pilot the machine, but it is an extraction shooter as per gameplay. Yeah, sorry for cutting the audio out here, but the trailer uses the song Bust a Move by Joey Valence and Bray, and I know that'll get me a copyright strike. Impulse is another one of those inspired by the likes of Titanfall. This, of course, meaning there's a dichotomy between playing a highly agile pilot and a slower, more powerful trotting mecha suit. So this one is a 6v6 movement shooter with parkour like wall running, grapple hooks, hollow jumps, and the reason we're here, mech piloting. There's also some solid mentions of a system to alter surfaces with PAINT bombs for tactical advantages, which also sounds interesting, although at this point I'm a little unsure what exactly that entails. WTF, or Waifu Tactical Force, is another player versus player first-person shooter going the Titanfall route. This time the catch is that the visual art style is anime girls and the sort of utopian sci-fi landscapes that you'd see in Y2K computer wallpapers. Very green nature tech futurism. Fruitiger Arrow stuff. I did hop into the playtest for this one and can say it's really pretty to look at, however it's very, very early. I mean pre-alpha, state, playtest, so really what we're looking at is a proof of concept in that aspect, and one thing that hasn't been implemented into that yet is the mech aspect. And just saying, this game needs to really nail down the movement part of this movement shooter. Also, this store page lists no intrusive FOMO or Battle Pass bloat as a key feature, and I love that.
My name's Xavier B. Johnson, and this is Diesel Knights.
Going with a less noble, bright, visual angle, Diesel Knights takes place in an alternative military history world in a setting described as pulp-inspired diesel punk. This one is also a PvP movement shooter with mechs, promising to live for gameplay and not microtransaction nonsense. If you hadn't seen it yet, it did completely blow its Kickstarter out of the water earlier this year, massively reaching every single stretch goal. And I gotta say, it looks pretty awesome, and we're in luck without a long wait, as it is supposed to hit early access launch Q3 of 2026. A new visual novel with hand-drawn charcoal artwork and traditional folk music from the British Isles is called A Line Held Tight, and it appeared here as well. This one is set in the 32nd century on a mining colony floating through the vastness of space. The story is aimed to be deeply divergent based on character choices, both personal and political. I get the feeling this one will be heart-wrenching. Total War is a pretty well-known franchise of grand strategy games, and now the grim darkness of the far future finally gets its own. Total War Warhammer 40,000. These are games of mass war, taking a hybrid real-time strategy to turn-based tactics approach. Granted, mechs aren't necessarily the centerpiece here, it's really a combined arms sort of thing. I do feel like there is probably enough overlap between mech fans and 40k to make this massive announcement of a game worthy to mention. If you are unfamiliar with 40k and want to know right off the bat where the giant robots are at, I'll point out that this game starts with a few different factions. Space Marines have got Dreadnoughts, Orcs have got Stompas, the Aldari, which are the Space Elves, have got War Walkers and Wraith Knights, and the Astra Militarum have those two-legged little Locust Walkers that they call Sentinels. This is also a Total War game and Warhammer game, so keep in mind it'll probably have a flood of DLC expansion content in the future, and if you're a mech fan specifically, you'll probably want to keep an eye out for the addition of whichever one of those adds the Tau faction of Xeno-aliens as playable. The Tau battlesuits are probably the closest thing the Warhammer 40k setting sees to Gundam mobile suits. If you feel building Gundam plastic model kits in real life as too messy, you might want to look into a virtual model desktop, like Model Kit Studio coming 2027 by Spooky Rabbits. Not only is this a model building simulator, but it does also seem to have a story mode of some sort, fully original mecha models to build, customization options like custom painting and decals, and a photo mode with posability and diorama options. A game for relaxing, for fans of things like Model Builder, Mech Builder, Last Call BBS, and of course anyone who likes the satisfying sound of clippers as they snip-snap fresh plastic pieces from runners. Oddsub is the team behind Husk Protocol. This one is a roguelike deck builder where the playing mat is the cockpit of a big mech suit. The world is fully toned various hues of rust, and the ultimate goal is to make it through the AI-powered city of Eterna undetected and undefeated. An interesting mechanic that plays out through this one is that there is no heal. Instead, you'll have to hop into different mech suits entirely, which has the benefit of a refreshed health pool, but a negative of potentially losing your stacking buffs you learned through each run. Gotta play very carefully. I did manage to get into the playtest for this one, and even have a video about it that'll be linked below if you'd like to see more. Okay, so let's quickly go through some of the games that have a potential mech element that seem to be secondary instead of the main portion of gameplay. Windrunners is one of those 2D side-scroller airplane bullet flight games. Graphically, it looks pretty slick. The capsule art shows a big humanoid mecha, likely a boss fight, and a lot of the other enemies seem to be walkers in some fashion. Also, I hope the soundtrack is as cool as the trailer soundtrack, because it sounds awesome. A more historical throwback to Mech, this one is War of the Worlds Siberia. The main gameplay seems to be a character-driven action-adventure experience with maybe some horror elements thrown in, considering the world is under invasion by one of science fiction's first robotic vehicles, that being the Martian tripod fighting machines of the 1898 War of the Worlds novel. Exodus, coming 2027 by Archetype Entertainment and published by Wizards of the Coast, seems to be aiming to work as a spiritual successor to the acclaimed Mass Effect RPG series. Over-the-shoulder, role-playing game shooter stuff with aliens and space, and I'm sure a divergent story path. While I didn't notice any gameplay in the trailer specifically involving you controlling anything resembling a mech, yet there were a few characters in what appear to be some sort of smaller mech suits that kind of remind me of oversized diver suits, and I kind of wonder if that'll be playable. Threads of Time by Rio Games is a turn-based JRPG with a plot based around time travel. Most of what we've seen in the trailer seems to be a sort of paleo age with dinosaurs, but as the trailer moved into the future, it seems that at a later point there is an apocalypse, and where what I assume is the main player character front and center in some sort of rounded Gurren Lagann chest-faced robo-suit as they face toward a much larger robot. Coming this year from Traveler's Box, we got to see Bot/Bot. I don't think there's any mechs here, just a top-down action hack and slash about robots fighting robots. Some bigger, some smaller. I'm sure this game will be fun. Project Foxx seems to be another hack and slash experience, this time a more superhero type of visual style. You're a fox in some sort of power suit beating up what appear to be mechanical baddies. Trailer also shows some spaceship flying sections, and it ends on what I would say is a cliffhanger, as our hero steps up to presumably pilot what I can only describe as a Fox Gundam. Silkgrove by Gallic Entertainment appears to be one of those cozy type of games, a life simulation RPG of relaxing as you build, craft, repair, and maintain community relationships. It self-describes its world as being a solar punk. What makes it interesting enough for me to bring up in this video is that the setting is what appears to me to be a utopian world rebuilt on the ruins of a war that used giant humanoid robots of some kind. A lot of the environmental pieces are slowly rusting chunks of iron giants. I can't say that I'm too into cozy games as a genre, but that's actually a really cool world setting to me, and I might have to check this one out just because of that. Carcass Clad is probably the exact opposite of the last game, this one being a survival horror thing that takes place in the gritty pilot seat of a tank, and it comes from the creator of Mouthwashing. Seems to be all about tanks in a dark dystopian war. I figured it was still probably worth pointing out for mech fans who are into the driver's seat simulation element of those sorts of games. One thing that I think makes this one interesting is that it's also 3-player. Nintendo's Showcase saw more footage of the Star Fox 64 remake, While I have yet to see the option to pilot anything resembling a mecha yourself, this game does include several enemies that are mecha inspired by design. You know, bipedal, walking bots, and mobile suit type flyers both. I have heard that one of the later Star Fox sequels did enable the ability to have the R-Wing land and turn into a walker. I guess we can hope this gets snuck into this version of the game as well. This is a single-player spin-off of Nintendo's shooter franchise Splatoon. It's getting a spin-off which is called Splatoon Raiders. You know, the shooter where the goal is to shoot ink at the ground and walls instead of necessarily at other players. In this one, it does seem that you get a mech-adjacent companion in the form of an NPC-controlled exploration bot and play as a character known as the Mechanic. I'm hoping that the exploration bot becomes controllable by the player at some point, though as far as I've seen in the pre-launch information of the game, that is not something I've seen yet. The trailer for Xenoblade Genesis seemed to lean very much so into the fantasy aspect of JRPGs, and I didn't catch anything robotic outright, but it might be worth noting that this is something of a continuation of the Xenogears and Xenosaga series by Monolith. Xenoblade spans across 3 numbered titles and a definitely mecha spin-off called Xenoblade X, so there could very well be a giant robot element present in Xenoblade Genesis that just didn't get any airtime in this trailer. And that sums it up. I think that was every mech game, mech-related game, giant robot game, potentially, that was shown during all of these summer game things. So if I did miss something, feel free to let everybody know in the comments down below, and hopefully at least some of these games looked cool and you can check them out. Thanks.